In this video, I'll be counting down the top 10 Pokemon you should max out first in Pokemon Go. These are Pokemon that have a significant amount of usefulness in raids, gym battles, and PvP once it is maxed out. Of course, maxing out any Pokemon to the current highest level of 50 requires a significant amount of Stardust and Candy. Thus, make sure you prioritize any of these Pokemon before any other. I also suggest you only max it out if it has perfect IVs. This is of course because the Stardust and Candy investment being so high, you don't want to regret powering up one Pokemon only to end up with a better one later on. So let's start off at number 10, and it is going to be none other than Gengar. Now, the primary reason why I have Gengar on this list is because its Mega Evolution has one of the highest damage outputs for raid battles currently in the game. It is, however, a glass cannon, which means it will have the tendency of getting knocked out quickly even if it has a type advantage. One of the best ways you can counteract this is to give your Mega Gengar a substantial stat boost by maxing it out. The other nice thing is that the most relevant legendary raid bosses, like Mewtwo, Deoxys, Lucario, and the Lake Trio, are weak against ghost types. Typically at the top of the list of counters for these raid bosses will be Mega Gengar, meaning if you were to max out your Mega Gengar, that would give you a significant advantage in the raid because of its higher survivability. And if you've ever used Mega Evolutions in raids, you would know that a Mega Pokemon's usefulness is determined by how long it lasts in battle. This leads me to number 9 on this list, and it is Gyarados. For much of the same reasons I had Gengar on this list, Gyarados is for sure one Pokemon that is worth maxing out. Primarily because of its usefulness as a Mega Evolved Pokemon, a maxed out Gyarados will trivialize many raid bosses that are weak against Water, Dark, and Dragon types. If you want a solid anchor for raid battles, it's not a bad idea to max out your highest IV Gyarados. Alright, next I want to move on to more PvP centric Pokemon you should max out. And at number 8, we have none other than Talonflame. Now, a maxed out Talonflame may be utterly useless in raid battles, but when it comes to the Ultra League, a maxed out Talonflame is like using a cheat mode. On top of having insanely high stats as one of a very small number of Pokemon that fall just under 2500 CP once it is maxed out, a vast majority of Pokemon in the Ultra League meta actually get hard countered by Talonflame. If you are running against Venusaurs, Roserades, Machamps, Skarmories, etc., your Talonflame can completely melt down any of these Pokemon, especially with Flame Charge and Brave Bird. If you are serious about getting ahead in the Go Battle League, then maxing out a perfect IV Talonflame is an absolute must. But Talonflame is not the only Pokemon that is a powerhouse in the Ultra League once it is maxed out. This leads me to my 7th Pokemon you should max out, and that is Umbreon. Anyone who runs Umbreon in the Great League can tell you, this Pokemon has an insanely high amount of utility. It's probably one of the tankiest Pokemon that you can bring, and typically wins out in most neutral damage fights. The one unfortunate caveat with Umbreon is that there are more counters to Dark types in the Ultra League meta. However, considering its usefulness as a shield baiter and tank, it could most certainly be a solid safe switch, especially if you cater your team around combating those Dark type counters. You could very easily checkmate your opponent if you play it right. Honestly, regardless of which one you choose to max out between Talonflame and Umbreon, both will completely trivialize the Ultra League and net you very easy wins for your Go Battle League ranking. But of course, the Go Battle League is not the only form of PvP in Pokemon Go. We also have gym battles, which leads me to the 6th Pokemon on this list, and it is Conkledore. Now, some of you might be wondering why I have a Pokemon like Conkledore on this list, when there are plenty of powerful Pokemon that should be maxed out. Well, Conkledore is actually one of the most universally useful Pokemon in several situations you wouldn't expect. First of all, it is by far one of the strongest fighting type Pokemon in the game, and it also has a ton of survivability alongside it. If you have a maxed out Conkledore, it will completely trivialize some of the most difficult gameplay in Pokemon Go. This includes Team Go Rocket battles, Team Go Rocket leader battles, gym battles, and certain raid bosses that require fighting types. In particular, I found that having a maxed out Conkledore was most useful in Team Go Rocket battles that are extremely difficult. This includes the Triple Shadow Snorlax Team Go Rocket battle or the Dark type Team Go Rocket battle. It also comes in handy with some of the most difficult legendary raid bosses like Dialga and Darkrai. Speaking of which, let's move on to some of the best raid damage dealers that are extremely powerful once maxed out. The first of these, and the fifth Pokemon on this list, is none other than Rayquaza. Now, given that this is a legendary Pokemon, getting the XL candies necessary to power it up will be time consuming and difficult. However, if you manage to grind out the XL candies needed to max it out, it will prove to be one of your most used Pokemon for raid battles. The reason for this is quite simple. Rayquaza is one of the top damage dealing Pokemon in the game, and there are plenty of raid bosses that are weak against it. Pretty much any dragon type raid boss is going to get melted down by Rayquaza. Plus, you also have the versatility of giving Rayquaza flying type moves against raid bosses that are weak against flying types. All in all, this is going to be one of your most powerful Pokemon in your collection if you manage to get it to level 50. But since it is a massive investment to get there, Rayquaza couldn't be much higher on this list. Now, if you still want solid raid attackers but don't want to spend a ridiculous amount of time walking the Pokemon as your buddy, then here are a few non-legendary Pokemon that you should definitely max out. Starting off is our fourth Pokemon on this list, and it is Metagross. Now, the reason why I have Metagross on this list is quite simply because a maxed out Metagross with Meteor Mash is going to be your absolute best steel type attacker in your collection. On top of that, Metagross will eventually get a Mega Evolution, which will increase its value by a tremendous amount. Since good steel types are far and few between, having a maxed out Metagross will certainly take you far. The other good thing is that Metagross is resistant to most types with its unique type combination of Psychic and Steel, making it a very solid gym defender. But Metagross is not the only non-legendary you need to max out. The third Pokemon on this list will be none other than Garchomp. Now, Garchomp may not be the absolute highest DPS Pokemon in Pokémon GO, but it is without a doubt one of the most useful because of its typing, move pool, and its Mega Evolution when that is eventually released. This is sort of the counter pick to Metagross and why I place it slightly higher on this list. When you need a solid anti-steel Pokemon, then a maxed out Garchomp is going to be your best bet. Garchomp is an absolute monster versus raid bosses with a steel or dragon typing, making it an absolute must-have in your collection. Having a maxed out Garchomp will elevate your game to new levels. If you have the XL Candy and Stardust, you absolutely should max this bad boy out as soon as possible. This all leads me to the second Pokemon on this list, and this one might be controversial, but this Pokemon probably encompasses all of the benefits of nearly every Pokemon previously listed in this video, and it is going to be none other than Lucario. If you happen to have a maxed out Lucario in your collection, you will find that much of the most difficult content in Pokémon GO suddenly becomes trivial. Whether it's gym battles versus high CP Blissey, or Team Go Rocket leader battles with extremely difficult shadow combinations, a maxed out Lucario will make all of these challenges easy mode. On top of that, Lucario has a unique type combo of steel and fighting, making it strong against most Pokemon as well as resistant to many others. It has some of the highest DPS outputs among non-legendaries in the game, and it will eventually have a Mega Evolution that would potentially make it the strongest fighting type in the game by a long mile. So yeah, that pretty much covers every Pokemon I wanted on this list aside from the top one, and I'm sure you can already guess what the number one Pokemon to max out is going to be, but before we get to it, let's go over a few honorable mentions. The Pokemon that you should max out if you are able to are all of the top legendaries of each type. This especially includes Moltres, Reshiram, Kyogre, Zekrom, and Darkrai. Every single one of these would certainly give you many strong advantages in PvP, gym battles, Team Go Rocket battles, and of course, raids. But a lot of them are also very niche to their typing, so that is specifically why they didn't exactly make my top 10. I'm sure many of you would disagree, as many of these legendaries are deserving of a list like this, so make sure you share your top 10 in the comments below. Alrighty, so this finally leads us to the number one Pokemon you should max out first. It is, of course, going to be Mewtwo. Without question, Mewtwo is the best legendary Pokemon in the game and will likely stay so for years to come. Not only does it have some of the highest damage output in the game, but it also comes with some insanely good type coverage with its massive move pool, and it's pretty much universally good in any situation. Whether it be raids, PvP, gym battles, or Team Go Rocket battles, you will almost always find Mewtwo to be useful, if not your best option. Of course, ideally you will want to max out a Shadow Mewtwo, but getting a perfect IV regular Mewtwo to level 50 is still a great idea, especially because Mewtwo will be getting 2 Mega Evolutions in the future. Seriously, this one legendary is the full package. Having a level 50 Mewtwo will take you very far in Pokemon GO, and it is definitely worth the resources. If you don't have enough Mewtwo XL candy, then I highly suggest you start walking a high level Mewtwo right away. And if Mewtwo ever returns to raids, you absolutely must farm it up as much as possible. Even if you already have one maxed out Mewtwo, you would still benefit from having multiple Mewtwo's maxed out. So yeah, there you have it everyone. This was my top 10 list of Pokemon you should max out first. Hope you liked it. Share your top 10 in the comments below. Have yourself a great day, and I'll catch you all later.